Welcome to Two Fools for Christ. One temptation that is prevalent in the fighting of habitual sin is the desire for a Job moment. In the Old Testament, in the book of Job, Job was one of God's faithful servants who the Lord allowed to be tempted by the devil. And the devil tempted Job by taking from him his wife, his children, his cattle, and all the goods that he possessed in his life. And the devil did this to try and tempt Job to curse God. And Job persisted. He would not do it. And in the last chapter of Job, in the book of Job, God restores to Job all the things that was taken from him. And he, in fact, had more than what he had before. And this temptation is something, or this series of temptations, this type of tribulation, is something that in the moment of habitual temptation, whether it's any form of addiction, drinking, gambling, pornography, or even lesser addictions, other lesser habitual addictions. What is being awaited for by many people who struggle to break these vices is a Job moment. A moment, one day, one great temptation that they overcome, and then they're rewarded with the very source of that temptation being taken away from them, and they're never bothered again. But this is actually a defective way of thinking in the spiritual life. Not because what happened to Job isn't possible to any of us. Our Lord did something similar with St. Paul and his sudden conversion. But rather, we need to recognize a difference in that the Lord chooses to provide such conversions to some for the glorification of his name. But he also glorifies himself, as he says, through the weakness of his believers who persevere through the grace which he provides, that he assures us is sufficient. So, when approaching moral faults that are the cause of our own bad habits, that we have habituated in our souls, as opposed to outward afflictions like Job was given, it isn't reasonable to expect that a one-off temptation will take away the entirety of a multi-year-long addiction. And the reason that this is the case is because in life, temptations of these sorts are an aspect of our nature. And only very few saints have had their concupiscible appetites healed by a special grace after a great temptation. It happened to St. Francis of Assisi, it happened to St. Benedict, it happened to St. Thomas Aquinas, in particular in relation to chastity. All three of them had particular moments in which they resisted a very strong temptation to those appetites, and then in resisting them, they were rewarded with a quieting of those appetites for the remainder of their life. Nevertheless, beyond this extraordinary grace, such temptations to avarice, to lust, to intemperance in relation to alcohol or to food, all constitute an aspect of our fallen human nature, which is not removed ordinarily. And so if in this moment, those temptations appear to be too great or too strong, then it isn't the temptations that need to change. It is your resolution and your habituated virtue that needs to change. You need to grow beyond the temptation. And so if you're ever asking yourself, when will these temptations ever go away? The short and surest answer for most Catholics is that they will never go away. What will change is your capacity to deal with them. There is something equivalent if you were to walk into a gym and to pick up a certain sized weight and you'd be unable to lift it. And you were to say, when will this weight ever get lighter for me to be able to lift it? You're waiting for the wrong thing. The weight is never going to get lighter. You are going to get stronger such that the weight no longer is an impediment for you to lift it. And so likewise, when it comes to any addiction that's being fought or any temptation that is habituated within the soul, what will and must change for you to overcome it is your resolve, firstly, and then the action that follows, aided by grace, to form good habits that enable you to overcome and to manage the same temptations that are causing you to fall today. So don't seek to be relieved permanently of those temptations that are causing you to grievously offend God. Rather, pray for the grace so that you have the strength and perseverance to overcome them.